All right, here we go. How you doing? So I'm still early in this game of doing YouTube and doing videos. I still have my training wheels on, if you know what I mean. But I've learned some things that might be helpful for other people who are just starting out, or even people that are more advanced that really haven't thought this out. A lot of us come from a background to where we talk, we move around a lot, move our hands, I walk around the room. People that teach, present, whatever, we're usually not in one spot. I have a little story to tell you about one of my favorite math teachers of all time when I was in high school, Mr. Anderson. And we were in a room that was set up for science experiments and the like. And so the whole room, now I'm dating myself now, the whole room had chalkboards all the way around, front, sides, back. And as he's talking, and he had a great dry sense of humor, so he kept us all engaged. I was very engaged in what he was saying. But anyhow, he'd start in the front and start writing. And as he's writing, he'd turn and look over his shoulder and talk, and he'd go all the way around the room, just effortlessly, like it was, well, he was born to do it, and come right back to where he was before he starts erasing. And I don't remember how long, could have been weeks, could have been months into the semester. I just was watching him and I wasn't listening to him anymore. I just was fascinated how he was writing. And I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Anderson, I have a question." He says, "Yes." And I said, "Are you right or left-handed?" And he says, "Yes." And he just went right back to what he was doing. He had a little smirk on his face when he said it. He was ambidextrous. So the whole time he was writing, regardless of where he was in the room, he wasn't covering up what he was writing with his body, with his head. And I just thought that was so cool. Anyhow, it really doesn't have anything to do with what I'm going to talk about today, but I just thought it was really cool because a lot of us, especially from the old school of writing on chalkboards, we move around a lot. And I'm used to doing that. I taught in my corporate life. I also did some teaching before and after in school, and also when I did the cash flow games and some of the other classes that I had. But I move around a lot. Well, unless you have a videographer, someone holding your recording device, whether it's like this is my iPhone or a high-end camera, whatever, it's really hard to stay in frame. And one of the things that I do to try to stay in frame, now I'm sitting right now, so I'm not moving around a lot, is we put the phone or have some sort of reference, give us some feedback that we're staying in frame, so you don't see me disappear while I'm talking to you. And I experimented with one of my last videos like that when I was on a selfie stick walking around a park in Tempe, Arizona. And I noticed, I looked down, I was in frame, but the way the camera's positioned, you were kind of looking up my nose. So I got a lot to learn. But one of the things that I found that keeps me to look at the camera to give you, the watcher, the listener, eye contact is I learned this from someone else online, and it's pretty effective because it's keeping me focused on the camera right now, where most times I end up looking at myself, which make it look like I'm looking away from you. What I did and what I learned, let's see if I can do this, is I went online and looked for drawings of eyeballs. Why did I do that? Because our nature is to look other people in the eye, or look at faces at least. And so I did that. And so right now I have a cutout of an eyeball right over my camera. And so it's easier for me to look directly at the camera, because if you have a more evolved camera other than say a phone camera, you can kind of see where that bullseye is, and it's easier to look at it. But like this, for instance, this is one of my old iPhones. Let's turn it this way. So you can see right here, that's the camera. Now in the newer iPhones, it's behind smoked glass. It's really hard to see where the aperture or the camera is. And so it took me about 5 minutes to put this thing together. And as you can see the reflection right there, there's the eyeball over my camera. So what I basically did is cut out an eyeball. Let's do this. You see that? And you notice I have a hole there. You can see my eye through the hole. That's where you put the aperture or the camera. So it's looking right through there. And as you're looking at the eyeball, you're looking at the camera. And like I said, it's pretty easy to do with one like this where you can line it up fairly easily, but I'm not going to turn my phone around to show you that one. But yeah, it took me a while to get it lined up. I had to have the camera running to give me an idea. And also I found a little flashlight here to try to make it glow so I can put it through the hole of that. So that's one thing I've been doing to try to stay focused on the camera so I have the eye contact with the audience. Other things too is that if you don't have someone filming you and you move around a lot, say you are presenting or you are teaching a class and you want to have the camera follow you wherever you go as you're talking to other people in the classroom, is to set something up to where you always stay somewhat in frame. Now that takes some practice, takes some rehearsal. Like if you're going to a classroom, you might want to set up the camera and put some marks on the, say the whiteboard. You know, don't write outside this area, make that a frame on the whiteboard. Or you may want to put some tape on the ground or on the carpet to keep you from walking out of frame. You may be familiar with this if you watch like, you know, late night shows, or like when they do stand-up doing news programs where they get out of their seat, get away from the desk, and they're moving around. Well, if you're familiar with that, if you've been in any kind of production, film production, TV, whatever, stand-up comedy, whatever, if you're going to be before a crowd or before a camera, especially when they're fixed, is you will notice if you pay attention when you watch those news programs or whatever, sometimes they'll pull the camera back and you can see down on the stage or on the floor and you see tape there. Those are markings so that they say, you stand on this mark, that way you're always in frame. So you can do that as well if you're doing some sort of stand-up presentation while you're being filmed. Or again, you can have someone following you with a camera and make sure you stay within frame. There's also something that I'll look up for you and I'll put it in the notes below. Is a camera that, or one of many cameras, I'm not a sponsor, or they're not sponsoring this, but it's a camera that basically, and I don't know how it works, it's way beyond my technical skills. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to technology now. But anyhow, the camera itself is on like a selfie stick, and you can put it down on your desk or wherever as a tripod, and it will focus on you. I don't know if it's your eyes or your head, your face, whatever, but as you move, it'll rotate. You can take the selfie stick and move it to the side and it'll stay level. Okay, so it's on gimbals and it somehow processes where it is in space in relation to you. There's a guy that is in England that's a skater, four-wheel skater, and he always films himself. And I'm going like, how does he do that? Does he have like what's it called, a drone that follows you? Because you can have drones that do the same thing, that just stay on you the whole time. Well, every once in a while, depending where the sun is, you can see that there's a connection between his hand and something that looks like the shape of a smartphone. And I looked it up, and it's what they call it, invisible selfie stick or something like that. For some reason, or some way, there's software that you can put on your phone or whatever camera you have that recognizes that stick. I don't know if it's a coating on it or the color, but it will take it out of shot so that it looks like you're looking right at the person. And I thought that was so cool. So as he's skating around, he's holding a selfie stick, and the only time you really know he's holding something other than something in his hand is when the sun or the light comes through and casts a shadow on him, because you can see there's a very thin line that goes up to a rectangle. So those are kind of things that are helpful as well. But another thing is you know, I've got my camera facing me so I can see I'm in frame. Until, my 2 cents about doing this is, until you develop some muscle memory, what I mean is get used to what the phone or your camera looks like in reference to your face, that you can turn it around and maybe block out having the feedback, you know, looking forward at you. Is like right now I can look at myself, and that's why I'm looking away from you, is we are by nature looking at faces, right? So if there's no one else in the room, if I was in front of a classroom full of people, I would be looking at their faces. Well, the only face I have here is me. Excuse me. So anyhow, these are some things that possibly can help you out. And having the face back to you is not a bad thing. It's just that you're not looking at the camera. You're going to be more likely looking at yourself. But it gives you practice, whether it's a selfie stick or whatever. You can look at your phone or the camera and start learning how it's positioned in space compared to your eyes and your face. And eventually you can turn it around and use the better, like on an iPhone. The other camera on the other side away from you actually is a higher res camera. So anyhow, with that, I hope it's helpful when doing your own videos. Like I said, you know, try this, cut out a little hole there that you can put in front of your camera on your phone if you're using a phone. Putting tape or markings on the floor to make sure you are, if you're standing and you're walking around, you stay within frame. Or putting, if you're doing a talking on a whiteboard, set up your camera, turn it on, and then put markings outside, like here I'm writing right outside my frame that I'm looking at right now, so that the audience won't see it, but you're aware of it, and you will not write anything on that whiteboard outside of the frame so they don't miss it. Anyhow, that's for people who do these things on their own. If you've got a team of people that film you, you know, this is probably not going to help you much. But I just wanted to share some things I've learned about how to, number one, keep your eyes in the camera, eye contact, and also how to stay within frame of a recording device, whether it's a large camcorder or even if it's photographs. You know, we want our mugs within the frame. All right. Y'all take care now. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.